Hello, this is Keith, welcoming you to the 2068th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline the 6th of October 2016. The readers this week are Janet, Sally, Colin and Keith, with Robin and Peter on the controls. The editor was Janet and the production and distribution team is Ali, Alan and Phillip. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Ferdinand Bouillon, Harry Breur and is performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and it's used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. The events information has been collated by us from other sources. The local news headlines this week include leaseholders fume over £20,000 flat repair bills and Tories urge councillors to quit. Before the news, we have one or two special news items and notices. First, the sunrise and sunset times for tomorrow, the 7th of October, are as follows. Sunrise 7:12, sunset 18:24. Enfield Vision have organised a focus day for visually impaired people to provide them with a chance to access information on equipment, gadgets and services which are available in the London Borough of Enfield. The day will be held on Thursday the 20th of October 2016 at the Disability Resource Centre, 65C Park Avenue, Bush Hill Park, Enfield EN1 2HH between the hours of 10:30am and 2:30pm. The day will be opened by Diane de Jersey, who's the chair of Enfield Vision, and the Mayor of London Borough of Enfield, Councillor Bernadette Lapage. The focus day is open to anyone with a visual impairment, their relatives, friends and carers. This is a unique chance to meet with service and specialist friends, equipment providers and the voluntary sector organisations helping visually impaired people. The organisations and exhibitors are as follows. Special Equipment and Exhibitors, Cobalt Systems Limited, Computer Room Services, Enhanced Vision Europe Limited, Humanware, MAB's Mobile Resource and Advice Unit, Optelec Limited, PAMTRAD, Professional Vision Services, Sight and Sound Technology, Synaptic Limited, and Vision Aid Technologies. Service providers are the Royal National Institute for the Blind, online today, Enfield Carers Centre, Enfield Social Services, Enfield Talking Newspaper, and Vocal Eyes. We will be providing refreshments all day and you are welcomed. Please don't hesitate to contact us by telephoning our office on 0208 373 6260 or email on information@enfieldvision.org.uk if you have any query about the focus day. The telephone number again, 0208 373 6260, and the email is information@enfieldvision.org.uk. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and special announcements. We love to hear from you. If you have any comments about Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. She is your listener's representative and she will be pleased to help you. That's Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. Now Janet will read the first item of local news.
Council flat leaseholders say they feel like they have been handed a debt after Enfield Council plans to charge them up to $20,000 for repair work on their homes. The authority could charge Seven Drive residents between $13,000 and $20,000 for the work to replace the windows and roof, upgrade lights and TV aerials, and improve door security. Zahid Jamimi, 39, who lives in the block with his wife Anna and their two children, is now facing a bill of £15,561, paid at £300 a month over 5 years. However, the hotel manager, who has lived in Seven Drive for 10 years, said, "I don't want to be in debt, but I don't have $15,000 in my bank account. We feel we've been handed a debt. They say the windows need double glazing, but I had mine done 5 years ago, and it was all done in the corridors 4 years ago. It would not add any value to my house. It makes no sense. We are all very stressed. I'm worried the noise of the work will stress my autistic son. I don't know what to do. Neighbour Karen Wagner said, an NHS receptionist who has lived in 7 Drive since 2011, I'm really upset. It's an extortionate amount. It's made me feel quite anxious and has set my blood pressure off. I'm having to take tablets. I agree that the flat should be kept in good shape, but they have not done anything major for 20 to 30 years, and now they leave us with this bill. Council spokesperson Andrew Golder said, while we always seek to minimise the cost to leaseholders when works are carried out, we have a legal obligation to make sure that the properties we manage are well maintained and in good state of repair. This benefits both leaseholders, who in the vast majority of cases will have bought their former council property at a significantly reduced rate, and council tenants. Leaseholders were first informed that work was scheduled in November last year, and specific details of the work required were sent to them on the 21st of September. We are happy to discuss details of these works with leaseholders if they wish. 7 Drive leaseholders now have 30 days in which to contact the council to challenge the works.
There were renewed calls for an Enfield councillor to resign after he received his second criminal conviction in a year. Lower Edmonton Ward councillor Nassimi Erbil was found guilty of a public order offence after swearing at an off-duty policeman who had pulled him over for allegedly talking on his mobile phone while driving. Mr. Erbil, aged 47, of Nightingale Road, Edmonton, was also charged with, but not convicted of, careless driving at Highbury Coroner Magistrates Court on September the 22nd. He was handed a 4-week suspended jail sentence as well as a £1,045 fine. It is the second time Mr. Erbil, who sits as an independent Labour councillor after being suspended from the Labour group, has been given a criminal conviction. In September last year, he was convicted of fraud and given a 4-month suspended prison sentence at Southwark Crown Court for doctoring his suburban taxi driver licence to allow him to take passengers from all over London, not just the 4 boroughs for which he held a licence. This week, Terry Neville, the leader of Enfield Council's Conservative group, said, "This is an absolute scandal. I am horrified that this man is still allowed to be a local councillor. He is representing his constituents and getting paid £10,600 to do so. I called for his resignation last time he was convicted and will be doing so again." Mr. Erbil was suspended from the Labour group following his first conviction just 4 months after he had been elected to the council. His convictions do not warrant disqualification from office under UK law because in each case he was sentenced to less than 3 months imprisonment. But the National Labour Party, of which he is still a member, is to hold an investigation and he could be expelled. Achilleas Georgiou, deputy leader of Enfield Council, said it was up to the National Labour Party to decide what happens next. A Labour spokesman said Mr. Erbil's membership has been suspended at present. Mr. Erbil, who owns a fleet of taxis, said he would not go willingly. He told the Advertiser, "I have done nothing wrong. I was followed from my home by an off-duty police officer who tried to stitch me up. I received a conviction for shouting and swearing at this man, but really it was him who was swearing at me and calling me foreigner and all these names. I have sent out an email telling all the councillors about my conviction because I have nothing to hide. I am being honest and fair. No, I will not be resigning. A lot of the residents have said, don't go, don't resign. I am considering appealing against this conviction.
The Save Our Southgate campaign was launched to fight plans to break up the Enfield Southgate constituency as part of a major shake-up of parliamentary boundaries. The Boundary Commission proposes scrapping the seat as part of moves to cut the number of MPs from 650 to 600. Under the new proposals, Enfield Southgate would be abolished and the wards would be dispersed across 5 constituencies. Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows said, "I am pleased to help launch SOS, which is also known as Operation Humpty, because the aim is to put Enfield back together again after the planned break-up of the constituency into 5 pieces. There may be different political interest views across the 3 Enfield constituencies, but for the purpose of the council, I would suggest there can be a consensus that it is overall a bad deal for Enfield." Mr Burrows added that it was not in the best interests of Enfield residents to be represented by 5 different MPs who would have only a minority interest in Enfield. The Commission's initial proposals were published earlier this month and a consultation runs until December the 5th. If the changes go ahead, residents living in Cockfosters would be represented by a Chipping Barnet and Mill Hill MP. Another change would see voters in Bowes Ward becoming part of the Hornsey and Wood Green constituency. Enfield North would disappear under the proposals, and instead there would be a new constituency called Enfield, including people living in Chase, Enfield Highway, Enfield Lock, Grange, Highlands, Southbury, Town and Turkey Street wards. Mr Burrows added, Enfield Council should oppose the initial proposals and request a new plan which better respects the borough link and ideally enables 3 MPs to be representing Enfield Borough wards.
Enfield Council's Cycle Enfield consultation has been branded a complete sham after it emerged the authority paid a construction company £2 million to build lanes before all the public comments had been received. At a mini Holland Progress meeting on July the 12th, it's recorded the council had submitted a works order to Ringway Jacobs to build the Palmer's Green leg of the £42 million cycle lanes project. The minutes say, the scheme is currently out to statutory consultation and there have been no relevant objections. However, the consultation did not close until July the 29th, by which time it had received approximately 1,600 objections. Enfield Council said it was normal forward planning for an order to be placed months before the work was due to start. Construction on the route through Green Lanes began on September the 12th. But members of the Save Our Green Lanes group, who have been vocal opponents of the scheme, said it proved the council had not listened to the objections of the public. Spokeswoman Helen Osmond said, "You should be aware that this whole so-called consultation is a complete sham. Even though at least 1,600 people objected, the council is pushing on regardless. The people have the right to know that they are being completely ignored by their council. They are supposed to pay regard to the wishes of local communities. While the council will counter this by saying they have listened and made changes, the fundamental problem is that this is tinkering." Save Our Green Lanes recently took Enfield Council to court twice, seeking first a judicial review of the consultation and then an injunction to stop the work happening. The council won both cases, leaving the community group with a £10,000 legal bill. Council spokesman Andrew Golder said, "This is simply forward planning. It is normal practice with any large-scale infrastructure project to prepare work orders several months ahead of the work actually starting. The order placed enables the contractor to reserve resources pending the outcome of the consultation process that has continued to shape the design." Meanwhile, the anti-cycle group has been criticised for saying verbal abuse is allowable during the £42 million scheme's public survey. The comments were made in an email sent out to business owners by Save Our Green Lane spokesman, Ms Osman, during the A105 cycle Enfield consultation. Referring to an exhibition of the planned route, the email says, "Please try to go along because it will help you to understand the potential impact on your business and what to tell your customers and clients. No violence, please, but a spot of verbal abuse is allowable." When asked about her comments, Ms Osman said it was just a bit of banter sent to business owners to get them off their backsides. However, Enfield Council spokesman Andrew Golder said, "We're aware that some people are vehemently opposed to the Cycle Enfield scheme, but this sort of irresponsible behaviour simply heightens tensions and puts the personal safety of public servants at risk. We have now moved into the implementation phase for the 105 scheme, and our contractor will work with local businesses to minimise disruption during the construction works. However, there is still further engagement and consultation to follow for other schemes. Moving forward, we ask that residents and businesses alike engage with us in a constructive way, working together to help maximise the benefits of this investment."
There's a couple of notices for you. Palmer's Green Community Cafe is open Wednesdays, Saturdays and Sundays, serving homemade cakes, tea, coffee and refreshments from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. This Wednesday, the 12th of October, the conservatory is open from 2:30 to 4:30. The conservatory was built in 1934 and has been planted with a variety of exotics and is maintained by a team of volunteers from the Friends of Broomfield Park. Health Watch Enfield will hold their annual conference at Green Towers Community Centre, 7 Plenver Road, Edmonton, N9OBU, on Thursday the 13th of October from 9:30 to 4 p.m. and this year will be focusing on patient participation. Make sure you have your voice heard by joining Health Watch Enfield on the day.
An investigation has been launched after a woman died while waiting to be transferred to another hospital. Kula Christou had a heart attack at Barnet Hospital on January the 27th, a few hours after suffering intestinal bleeding. The 53-year-old from Enfield had spent 4 weeks at the hospital. She was scheduled for an endoscopy, but she was the last patient to be seen on the day. At 3:45 p.m, doctors ordered more tests, but these were not available at the Wellhouse Lane Hospital and after 5. While Mrs. Christou was waiting for a hospital transfer, she had a heart attack at around 7:30 p.m. and was eventually taken to theatre at 9:15 p.m, where she died. Speaking at a pre-inquest review, Andrew Walking, Senior Coroner for North London, ordered an investigation into radiology services at the hospital. He will also investigate whether the surgical team at the hospital could have been involved earlier in the day to perform life-saving treatment. The inquest will begin on October the 31st and is scheduled to last 4 days. Emily Palmer, a clinical negligence solicitor acting on behalf of the family, said, "This is a deeply distressing and upsetting case for the family. It is hoped that the family's questions regarding Kula's sad death will be answered during the coronial process and help them come to terms with their loss. The Royal Free London NHS Trust, which runs Barnet Hospital, has been contacted for a comment."
Old College invaded by traveller caravans. Council pledges action as resident is uneasy. Yet another site in the borough has been illegally occupied by travellers, with neighbours saying they have been left feeling uneasy. The old site of Barnet and Southgate College is now home to 6 caravans after they moved in. The land was sold by the college to Enfield Council last July. Enfield Council told the Enfield Independent it was aware of the problem and was taking steps to clear the site. However, if the council decides to seek a court order to remove the travellers, it could take up to 6 weeks before they are evicted. Guy Harrowell, who has lived opposite the college for 18 months, said he called the police and the council, but nothing was done to stop the caravans going in. He said it feels very uneasy. There are a lot of vans driving around, there is noise until late at night, and windows have been smashed. I'm no snob, but this has really brought the tone of the area down. The council needs to stop being so politically correct and forcefully remove them without the requirement of a court order. They have caused criminal damage. Enfield Council spokesman Suzanne Lindsay said, "We are aware there is an illegal encampment on this site and are taking the relevant steps to have it removed as soon as possible. The police have been contacted for comment."
Petition calls for hike in government funding. Signatures are being collected for a mass petition demanding the government stops shortchanging hard-up Enfield. It claims the central government grant the council receives to provide services is woefully inadequate because the funding formula uses out-of-date population data. The petition, which has cross-party support from the council as well as from pressure groups, says that successive governments have failed to take account of the borough's rapidly growing population and increased deprivation. Council leader Doug Taylor said, "Enfield Council has suffered underfunding over many years and from successive governments. Our lack of funding is compounded by increased deprivation, and while we have ambitious plans to tackle that issue, in the shorter term we will see higher levels of need, increasing demands on social care services and extra housing costs for those who need temporary accommodation, none of which is reflected in our funding settlement. Politicians of all parties in Enfield back this campaign, but we need the support of residents to make our voice heard and try to encourage the government to do something about our lack of funding. It's in everyone's interests for the borough to be funded according to need. We're not being greedy, we just want our fair share." The oversight has been highlighted by Monty Meth, president of the Enfield Over 50s Forum, who this week launched the petition addressed to Prime Minister Theresa May and other high-ranking officials to cough up. Mr Meth said, "It's not right. Enfield receives government funding of £496.10 per head of population, while Westminster gets £917.59 per person, Hammersmith and Fulham receives £900, and Kensington and Chelsea £815, when all the boroughs carry out the same tasks." Copies of the petition will be appearing in libraries and council buildings in the next few weeks, and everyone is being urged to sign, in the hope that Enfield will get its fair share of funding. The council was forced to make savings of £118 million between 2010 and 2015 as a direct result of central government cuts, and is expected to make further savings of at least £56 million more by 2019-20 because of continuing pressures. Terry Neville, the leader of the council's Tory group, said, "I very much echo Doug Taylor's comments on this issue, which has beset both his administration and ours since the millennium. The present arrangements are indeed iniquitous, the more so because the formula, if it ever was right, is now at least 14 years out of date, and much has happened to Enfield in terms of increasing population and demands on service."
Got a lovely picture of here, children bobbing for apples, which is very seasonable, and the headline is "Appy Campers." Apples were on the menu at an autumn fair held at 40 Hall Farm. The annual event, held for the 4th year running, was staged at the farm in 40 Hill, Enfield. The fair originates from Apple Day, an annual celebration, and events traditionally take place throughout October to mark the onset of autumn with apples from the orchard. The attractions included apple bobbing, which involves visitors biting into an apple without using their hands from a barrel of water. There are a variety of apples on sale from Cam Valley orchards in Hertfordshire, as well as tasting apples grown in the orchards of nearby Capel Manor. Visitors were able to try 16 different types of apple, including Peas Good Nonsuch. That is correct, Peas Good Nonsuch, cooking apples. Events for children included a Punch and Judy show, swing boat rides, arts and crafts stalls, and face painting. Seasonal vegetables grown at Capel Manor were also available to buy, including recently harvested squash. Enfield's Etc. Morris dancers drew the crowds, and there were magic tricks and performance artists. Kate McGeever, 40 Hall's farm manager, said, "Everybody enjoyed taking part in the events, and it was a really good day. The fair also encourages people to think about local produce from across the borough."
Amazing experience on UN junket in New York. Takiwa beats hundreds for a place. A charity worker has described her amazing experience as a youth delegate at the United Nations. Takiwa Danso beat hundreds of other applicants to be one of 2 young Brits at the UN's General Meeting in New York. Ms. Danso from Tottenham said getting there had fulfilled a life ambition. The 23-year-old said, "I saw the opportunity come up on Twitter. I had volunteered in the International Development Service 2 years ago, which got me in the network. These opportunities don't come along very often. I always wanted to get this sort of opportunity. I studied international development at university with the UN in mind. When I graduated, I did loads of volunteering, which helped me get a place. It was amazing. There were loads of other young activists from all over the world. It was weird to be in a room with loads of different countries, all with their own perspectives. I was just trying to take it all in. Young people don't realise all the things the UN does for them. People need to know why they should volunteer and campaign." Ms. Danso, a charity worker with the Al-Khair Foundation, had a packed schedule which included speaking on a panel about gender equality in the UK and her own experiences of discrimination. She said, "I have never done that before, stood up and spoken in front of a room of 100 people, but it was great. I always wanted to get to the UN. Now I am hoping to keep getting experience and opportunities, but I'm not sure what the whole future holds."
This is a letter from Bob Saunders of Chase Green Avenue, Enfield. Still time to reinstate our fireworks display. It was very disappointing to hear from the Scouts at the Enfield show that they will not be presenting the fireworks again this year. From what I gathered, they feel that they have lost the support of Enfield Council and the local police, who should in fact be working hard to make this kind of event happen and to support it wholeheartedly. This has been a display I've enjoyed over many years, and it's always been a source of great enjoyment for myself, my family, and the thousands of people who have attended. In all this time, there has always been a relaxed and happy family atmosphere, and it has always been well stewarded. It has been both an excellent event for the Enfield community and has raised money for the local Scouts. I'm not aware that there has been any public debate over this, and I believe that it would be a great thing for your paper to lead a campaign to reinstate them. There is even time still to make it possible this year if there is a strong and urgent commitment to make it happen.
Yoga doesn't prove a stretch for supple brownie youngsters. Adventurous brownie groups tried a new pursuit in an effort to gain another activity badge, yoga. Members of the 16th and 27th Enfield Brownie units joined up for a yoga class at the meeting place they both share at St George's Parish Hall in Hertford Road, Freezywater. The session was part of a number of Being Active events which the children are required to complete so they can be awarded the Brownies Healthy Hearts Interest Badge. A group of 30 children, aged between 7 and 10, were taught a range of yoga poses and meditation techniques. They were shown how to do warm-up exercises at the start of the class, which involves stretching their arms and legs. The two groups usually meet on separate days each week, and they will also complete a cooking class where they will prepare healthy food. Jenny Webb, Brown Owl of the 27th Enfield Brownies, said, "It was the children's first yoga session and they loved it. They really enjoyed themselves and asked if they could join in another class."
Residents give the green light to fortnightly bin collections. Residents have opted for free fortnightly garden waste bin collections instead of a paid-for weekly service. That's the result of the public consultation carried out by Enfield Council, which is scrapping the free weekly green bin collections. Residents were given the choice of paying an extra yearly charge of £60 to keep weekly collections, but with the combined introduction of food waste collection, or alternatively revert to fortnightly collections with no extra charge. Figures from the 12-week consultation revealed that 87% of residents prefer the option of the free fortnightly bin collection. The decision will be determined at the Council's Cabinet meeting on Wednesday, October 19. If the fortnightly collection is agreed, the changes are expected to be implemented in April or March next year. The measure will save the Council more than £400,000 a year. The Council blames the changes on government funding cuts, which it says has forced it to make savings by cutting public services. So far, the Council has made savings of £118 million and is aiming to save an additional £56 million by 2019-20. Daniel Anderson, the Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, said the changes would not alter the current weekly refuge or recycling services. We know residents value our weekly refuse collection service, and we are committed to improving our recycling rates still further. Councils across the country are faced with making unprecedented cuts due to service provision. To that end, in order to save money, we are reviewing all our services to see if they can be delivered differently. The proposed changes to the green bin and food waste collection service have come about as a result of that review. Also, as fears grow over increase in fly tipping, more rubbish is likely to be dumped on the streets of Enfield by fly tippers if weekly bin collections are scrapped, an anti-litter campaigner adds. Ernest Smith says that such move will lead to an increase in unsightly rubbish left in the borough, as some people will be unwilling to pay for its removal. Enfield Council has just conducted a 12-week consultation to hear residents' views about making the free green bin collection fortnightly rather than weekly, including collection of food waste in a bid to save over £400,000 a year. Mr. Smith of Ladysmith Row, Enfield, has collected thousands of abandoned supermarket trolleys from the borough over the years and has also turned his attention to rubbish. He predicted that charging could also scupper plans to increase recycling in the borough. He said fly tipping has always been a problem and will never cease, but only become a real nuisance when the free collection services of large domestic items was withdrawn. The Council is between a rock and a hard place in the provision of all services, but rubbish collection is a basic service of local government. This is no time to reduce available capacity, added Mr. Smith. I cannot think of any residents in their right mind who would agree to pay anything at all, let alone £60 a year, and store rancid material for 7 or 14 days.
Mansion Homes Plan submitted. A planning application has been submitted to Enfield Council to build hundreds of homes in Trent Park and convert part of its historic listed mansion into luxury flats. Included in the proposals for the mansion by developers Barclay Homes is the creation of a museum dedicated to the wartime role it played as a top-secret listening post for captured high-ranking German officers held there. The application is for 262 homes, 15 of them in the mansion. In total, the scheme comprises 128 houses, 134 apartments, and 18 affordable homes. The homes will be built on the site of Middlesex University's former Trent Park campus, which includes the mansion. The site was sold to a Malaysian medical university for £30.9 million in 2013 and bought by Berkeley Homes last year for an undisclosed sum. Former university buildings, including Bevan Hall, Lake View, Wisteria Building and the Student Union, will be bulldozed if the plans get the go-ahead. Campaigners who had battled for a museum which tells the story of the mansion's wartime role have welcomed the plan. The conversations of German officers were covertly recorded by a team of so-called secret listeners, many of them German refugees, and helped crack key military secrets. The developers have agreed to extend the space on offer on the ground floor of the mansion for a museum chronicling the wartime exploits of secret listeners as well as its pre-war owner, Sir Phillip Sassoon. The swimming pool and orangery, where Sir Phillip entertained royalty and film stars, would also be restored. Berkeley Homes aims to restore the stable block to create 15 homes and also refurbish the Dower House, Rookery Lodge and Gardener's Cottage. Jason Charalambous from the Trent Park Museum Trust is delighted with the space offered to the museum following talks. We have got some exciting ideas, making sure it's teaching school children about the war, he said. The Enfield Society's Dave Cockle thought the developers had come up with a realistic plan for the museum. I think there is a good outcome. They respect the space, he said. The Society's Chris Jeffcott said transport and access could be contentious, with some people claiming the number of parking spaces proposed in the master plan were insufficient. Berkeley Homes is proposing a shuttle bus service between Oakwood Station as part of its plans. The application is likely to be considered by Enfield Council's Planning Committee in January next year.
Town hold their own. Enfield Town maintain their long, unbeaten home record in the Ryman Premier Division by securing a 2-2 draw at home to Dulwich Hamlet. Town, who have not lost at home in the league in 2016, came into the match on the back of successive wins which had seen them climb out of the relegation zone and into the middle of the table. Lifted by their good run of form, the hosts made a blistering start and took the lead through Harry Ottaway inside 2 minutes. However, Dulwich hit back strongly and Daniel Carr levelled the scores prior to the interval before Ashley Carew gave the visitors the lead from the spot on the hour. Town were not to be denied though, and they were awarded a penalty of their own 8 minutes from time, which Billy Crook converted to ensure that the points were shared. I felt we could have won the game if you look at the chances we created, said manager Bradley Quinton, but we know that Dulwich are a good side and they will give a lot of teams problems this season. We've got 7 points from the 3 home games and I would have taken that if I'd had been offered it beforehand. Meanwhile, the recent past has seen Town again be active in the transfer market, as Quinton continues to reshape his squad, with Ryan Doyle returning to the club. Primarily a central defender, but also capable of playing either at fullback or in midfield, Doyle made 108 appearances for Town before leaving the club earlier this year to take up an employment opportunity abroad. And 26-year-old midfielder Scott Shorten has also made the move to Town from Bishop Stortford. Shorten played alongside Quinton at Braintree Town and has also had spells with Wycombe Wanderers, Ebbsfleet United, Wingate and Finchley and Hendon. Shorten will help strengthen Town's options in midfield, with Nicky Ahmed and Nathan Livings both likely to face lengthy spells on the sidelines through injury. Ryan is a very good player and a likeable guy, Quinton added. We need to get his fitness up before he can be considered for selection, but he's a winner and it's good to have him back. Scott is not properly match fit at the moment, but I've played with him and know what a good player he is. I think he will give us a lot. However, central defender Curtis Ujar has left the club by mutual consent. Ujar was expected to be a cornerstone of Town's defence when he joined in the summer and captained the side on the opening day of the season. But he only made 5 appearances and did not feature after being taken off at half-time during a defeat at AFC Sudbury on August the 27th. Enfield Town go to Mersham next before hosting Billericay Town.
Now here are a couple more notices for you. The Tottenham Hotspur Foundation is delivering fitness and multi-sport sessions, including cricket, football and tennis, for visually impaired people aged 14 years and upwards. It's on Wednesdays and it's weekly, and it's between 6 and 8 p.m. And the venue is Barnet and Southgate College, Southgate Campus, High Street, Southgate, London N14 6BS. To book your place, please email peter.stone@tottenhamhotspur.com or call Peter on 077 87 504 237. Now, do you fancy a little bit of everything? Come to the Little Bit of Everything sale at St Stephen's Church Hall in Bush Hill Park, EN1 2ET, on Saturday the 15th of October from 2 p.m. It's an ideal opportunity to buy good books, kitchenware, games, china, toys, glassware, linen, jewellery, clothes, shoes and bric-a-brac, and help raise money for the church's special projects. This year the project is to buy a Panther trike for 7-year-old Sammer, who suffers from cerebral palsy, and also 2 trainer bikes. And refreshments are available.
Swinging back to the 1940s. Care home residents were treated to a 1940s war-themed tea party at the weekend. Families and friends also attended the special gathering, which took place at Nairn House Care Centre in Garnett Road, Enfield. The get-together gave residents aged between 65 and 101 the opportunity to share memories of World War II with their grandchildren. A buffet included food which was rationed at the time, such as rock cakes and bread pudding, and Joe Vaughan sang hits from the era, including swing, country and blues music. A total of 45 residents and guests enjoyed the party, which was held in the home's lounge. Carol Cox, a care worker at the centre, performed a waltz and encouraged residents, including those who are wheelchair-bound, to join in. Laura Harris, activity coordinator at Nairn House, said, "Everyone had a great time. The residents and their families really enjoyed the tea party. It was the first war-themed event we have held. It was very successful and we hope to hold another one soon."
Boost for disability footballers. Enfield Town Disability Football Club is celebrating a hat-trick after a crowdfunding appeal landed them a sponsor as well as new kit and training gear. The club has been running for 5 years and has raised more than £550 through an online appeal pleading for new kit, as well as the cash that will fund the white and royal blue strips. The landlord at the old Wheatsheaf pub in Windmill Hill, Enfield, has agreed to be the club's sponsor. Assistant coach Shane Tant said, "We're delighted. We've already got more than we hoped for, and hopefully we'll get more. It will pay for new kit, which we really need, and training equipment, new goalposts, jumping hurdles, and speed rings to improve agility." The club was established with help from Enfield Town Football Club and a cash injection from the Tottenham Hotspur Foundation as a way of getting disabled players involved in the beautiful game. Now the club has successful first and second teams with players ranging in age and disability. Shane added, "It began as a run-around to get people out in the fresh air having a kickabout, but has gone on to play teams from Germany and Norway. We've been in contact with a disability team in Wales and will be playing them if all goes well. We play in the Middlesex County PAN Disability League, and that's down to the hard work of head coach Julian Mason. The team train for 2 hours every Saturday morning at Enfield Playing Fields, next to Enfield Town's Queen Elizabeth Stadium ground."
Millfield Theatre returns to the heady days of rock and roll. Rock and roll is being brought back in style at the Millfield Theatre, as Joe Brown performs some of the classics from his musical career that has spanned music hall, skiffle, rock and roll, theatre, films, television and radio for more than 60 years. The heady days of rock and roll will be laid bare during the evening, which promises to be an intimate glimpse into the hectic world of one of Britain's most enduring and best-loved performers. Joe will be full of anecdotes and music, which will be aided and abetted by his old friend Henry Gross, a superlative guitarist who founded the chart-topping group Shah Nahar and was the youngest musician to play Woodstock. In 1956, Joe formed the Spacemen skiffle group, which lasted until the skiffle movement faded towards the end of the decade. He was later spotted by television producer Jack Good in 1958, who hired him as the lead guitarist in the orchestra of his new television series, Boy Meets Girls. At the same time, he backed a number of American musicians, such as Gene Vincent and Eddie Cochran, on their UK tours. During the 1960s, Joe landed roles in a number of films, pantomime and stage musicals. The film What a Crazy World in 1963 and the hit musical Charlie Girl in the West End between 1965 and 1968. In 1972, he formed rock and roll band Brown's Home Brew, which also played country and gospel music. The band featured his late wife Vicky Brown, who died of cancer in 1991, and also Pete Oakman from the Brothers.
Let us be the hub of the community. A charity dedicated to domestic abuse is urging council bureaucrats to keep a community centre in the hands of the people rather than lease it to a private company. PAARS, Parent Abuse and Reconciliation Service, wants to take over the running of the Albany Community Hub in Albany Park, Enfield Highway, a once thriving cafe and community centre that has gone to rack and ruin. The charity has to leave its own premises in Riverfront, Enfield, in 2 years' time, but claims it's impossible to bid for funding streams without a secure future. Charity founders have been to see the hub and put in a bid, but hold out little hope that they can compete with private companies who are generally a lot wealthier. One of the founders and directors of PAARS, Azil Adil, said, "I managed to go and view the hub with someone from the council, and it became apparent that it will be let for commercial use and not community. This saddens us all at PAARS. There is a need to raise community spirit and support each other in raising our children, having good mental health and supporting the elderly. More than 80% of our service users are from Enfield. It would need about £130,000 to modernise the building and make it fit for purpose, so after that there wouldn't be much left." Ms Adil added, "Domestic violence has gone up by 48% just in Enfield over the past 5 years, and if the council squeezes organisations like us out, where will people go for help? A lot of charities need help because they're struggling to survive the current austerity measures. Whatever the council's views on the new owners, it has a legal obligation to take bids from everyone and lease it to the highest bidder, not the most worthy." An Enfield Council spokesman said, "The site has been advertised for commercial use and closing date for bids is Tuesday, November the 8th. We're delighted that PAARS has expressed an interest in using the Albany hub. Under the council's property procedural rules, we have to offer such tenders on the open market to ensure the council gets the best possible value from its assets. So far we've received 18 expressions of interest, including proposals for cafe use and child daycare facilities. Information to bid documentation was sent out on September the 30th to all parties who viewed the site and submitted an expression of interest, and we will send the same information to PAARS if it is requested. As part of the bid, PAARS wants to include an advice centre, victim of domestic abuse services, support and activities for all, housing support, solution-focused therapy sessions, counselling, reading groups, homework clubs, half-term activities, a gardening club, a knitting club, and a community focus group."
Celebration Vickersmoor Lawn Tennis Club marked its 90th anniversary this year, and the deal has helped the tennis club secure its future. A long-standing tennis club has secured its future after it was designated an Asset of Community Value, ACV, by Enfield Council. Vickersmoor Lawn Tennis Club in Sherbrooke Gardens, Winchmore Hill, which is celebrating its 90th anniversary this year, applied for the ACV as a safeguard against future developers of the site, which comprises of 6 tennis courts and a clubhouse. The ACV offers the club, which leases the land, protection under the Localism Act 2011, should the freeholder wish to sell it. It ensures that any sale or redevelopment is put on hold for 6 months, enabling the club or other community interest groups to come up with alternative plans to purchase the asset on behalf of the community. Matthew Robinson, chairman of Vickersmoor Tennis Club, said, "We are delighted with this award, which offers additional protection. Our link with local schools such as Keble, Highlands, and also very important in the council's decision to grant ACV."
Park is blooming lovely. This is a letter from Councillor George Sava. "I would like to congratulate the Friends of Berry Lodge Park in receiving yet another award. Following their Gold Award from Enfield in Bloom, it was followed by the Silver Gilt Award for Small Parks in the London in Bloom competition. They also received a Level 4 Neighbourhood Award from the Royal Horticultural Society. This is the first time a park has received such a high award in its first attempt in the London competition. This comes as no surprise to many, as I have visited the park on many occasions and, without the knowledge of the Friends, seen how absorbed and passionate they are in their work and how much they care for the environment and wildlife as a whole. Well done to all concerned, and I wish Berry Lodge Park Friends, and indeed every other park in Enfield, every success for the future. Looking forward to sharing a cup of tea with you at the park's shed."
This is a letter from Councillor Toby Simon, Turkey Street Ward, Chairman, Members and Democratic Services Group. Councillor Terry Neville, in his most recent column, complains about a so-called democratic deficit at the council. At council meetings, we have given more opportunities for councillors to speak by requiring others to give shorter speeches. These are better than long-winded and repetitious ones which some are inclined to give. The number of questions at full council has been limited because they are costly to answer. We think that 20 questions for each side is ample, but of course, councillors can and do ask questions of officers every day. The real democratic deficit was the decision of Councillor Laban, Mr Neville's deputy, to lead her troops out of the council meeting on September the 21st. The Tories wanted to disrupt the agreed order of business to debate a petition in private. Under legal advice, the public gallery would have been cleared and no one would have heard the debate. The Tories wanted this, although there were members of the public present who wished to hear the other scheduled public debates. This had all the signs of a pre-planned stunt. The normal arrangement is for business, which has to be dealt with in private, such as this, because it is part of an active court case, to come at the end of a meeting. The agenda timing, on which Ms Laban had been consulted in advance, had reserved a full hour for debates in private session, so Ms Laban was quite wrong to say that this issue would not have been reached had the Tory group had the patience to wait until 9:15 p.m. Mr Neville also raises the issue of cycling. This administration proceeds on the basis of evidence. We are always open to a well-reasoned response. Indeed, many improvements were made to the Cycle Enfield A105 scheme because of the helpful input from the constructive responses of the public.
Samuel's hoping he won't be fired. An Enfield resident will be among contestants in the firing line when The Apprentice returns to TV screens. Budding businessman Samuel Boateng from Enfield Lock will be hoping to avoid hearing the dreaded words, "You're fired," from tycoon Lord Alan Sugar as he tries to impress the judges with his entrepreneurial skills. The 28-year-old is one of 18 contestants battling to win the hugely popular BBC show, which is back on our screens for its 12th series. Samuel, a sales manager for a major car brand, is certainly self-assured about his own ability. In his audition video, he admits his wife calls him Mr. President and his brother calls him Boss. Having worked with more than 700 enterprises across London and held various management roles, he reckons he has the business savvy to beat his rivals in the weekly tasks and to be chosen to be hired by Lord Sugar, as well as receive £250,000 in business investment. He claims his only weakness is his impatience, which he says you have to be to get anywhere in life. My ability in developing new and innovative ideas is one of my strongest business skills, says Mr. Boateng, who has a Bachelor of Science degree in Information Technology and Business from Sheffield Hallam University. I have excellent public speaking abilities, he added. My creativity, my passion, my charm and my likability all roll into one, creating one perfect guy. We've reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Janet, Sally, Colin and Keith, and Robin and Peter on the controls, it's goodbye. Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the memory stick into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper on 020 8805 6578. Coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.